Hi, I'm Charity Sikora. Today we're going to talk to film producer Ashley Melzer. She's a former Chipola College student. Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself, what your current job is, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you, Charity. Thanks for having me. Um, I grew up in Sneads, Florida, and I now live in Durham, North Carolina. I got there by way of California. It's a not that long a story, but quite a lot of travels in between. I went to the University of Southern California for undergrad, and then I went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, for my grad program. And for that, I studied folklore. And I can talk more about that in a second, what that means. But at the end of folklore, whereas some things you get out the end of your program and you know exactly what your job is, at folklore, it's wonderfully different. People have all sorts of different jobs. In my class, there were only 6 people in my grad program. One person went on to become a PhD in American Studies, which is a normal academic path for some people. Another person became a stone wall builder in Wales. She travels back and forth to Wales and has written a book about her experiences. And I ended up doing filmmaking and comedy and writing about music. And so now in my everyday life, I work part-time for a center at UNC called the Center for the Study of the American South, where I work with an academic journal called Southern Cultures and do video production and special projects. And then with my other time, I produce creative projects. So I'm a documentary film producer, which is why I'm here. And then I also help run a comedy collective that produces improv comedy shows, sketch shows, storytelling shows.
That sounds really interesting. It sounds like you're really busy all the time.
That's true.
But tell us a little bit how your time at Chipola went, what you enjoyed, what kind of classes you took that kind of led you to the interests that you had.
Yeah, I was really lucky, I felt, to have Chipola as a resource coming out of high school. Had wonderful high school teachers who were really supportive, but Chipola felt like a great way to continue having close connection with professors and figuring out what I wanted to do. And so while I was at Chipola, I took your normal courses. I think at the end of my time, I had taken more English courses and humanities courses than anything because I'd always known that was an interest.
Right.
And I was a member of PTK, which was great because in high school, I had always been a part of projects where we got to do things outside of class. I was a part of something called the Pirate Publishing Company, where we were the first people to create a newspaper for our school, and we also did the yearbook, and we also did things like make pens and t-shirts and just sort of all this graphic design work and branding, marketing, things that people would study now. So when I came to Chipola, I still found those opportunities, and PTK was a big one. We had all sorts of projects where we were trying to help the community and assist the community. And then I was also a member of the student newspaper, the Papus. So for that, got to do a few articles and write some things. So the extracurriculars that were still sort of academically helpful were a big part of my time at Chipola.
Great. So tell us a little bit of how you got involved with the filming project for You Gave Me a Song.
Yeah. Well, I was as I mentioned, I did the folklore program at UNC. And one of my big reasons for going into it was that I was interested in documentary film. I'd done this undergrad degree in film production because I really wanted to make films, but I was really interested in this question of why do you tell stories and what stories are important to tell. And this grad program felt like a great way to continue on to that. While I was there, I met, there were lots of people in my program, and one later person ended up working for an organization in Durham, North Carolina called the Southern Documentary Fund. So that friend had a mutual friend named Kenny Dalsheimer, who's the director of You Gave Me a Song. And he was like, I'm looking for people to work on this project who might be interested in film and might be interested in music. And I was just sort of the perfect fit because that's where my interests aligned. So this mutual friend through the folklore program set us up, and we had some meetings, and it was clear right away that this is a story that needed to be told, was worth telling, and that I could contribute to in a meaningful way. And so that's how I kind of got introduced. And I think that happened around 2015.
That sounds really interesting. So tell us, what was the most rewarding or interesting part to you about this whole project?
Yeah, that's a hard question, right? Because there's so many. If you have an opportunity to see the film, there's so many stories within it, right? It's a powerful story of music. It's a powerful story of community. It's also just this story about a woman who sort of became like followed her passion and tried to do right by people the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And so working with Alice has been something, and getting to know her has been something really rewarding for me. And I think there are parts of the story that particularly resonate, and some of them are just like the way that she takes great care with making her art about sort of these social justice ideas. She was a part of a group called the Southern Folk Cultural Revival Project,
Mm-hmm.
where she and several other musicians toured the segregated South as an integrated tour. And so she was here to say, hey, these are stories and songs and themes that resonate with Black and white communities, and we're people who work together, and what we're really doing is trying to lift up rural creativity and working class people. And so her doing that, using her art for this way to make people closer together, I think was really powerful. And I think that's a story that we don't know that existed. I didn't know that existed before working on this project and working with Alice, and it was really powerful to me.
Good. So can you give any students who maybe have a passion for film production any advice or any guidance for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. Another thing I'll say is while I was at Chipola, I was very lucky that one of my honors projects was working with Dr. Amy Myers on, I was taking an English class, but she let me do my honors project in film. And so like that was an example of, even with the resources I had, I was able to follow my passion. And part of that was because people in my life took me seriously, like Dr. Rentz, who has always been a mentor of mine since childhood, Dr. Myers, Brian Craven, sorts of people at Chipola and at Sneads High School took me seriously, and that I took advantage of those opportunities. So if you're a student who is interested in following art and doing film production, part of it is just chasing the opportunities that you have near you. There's probably more than you realize. And especially in today's society, the way that you can just make things and put them online, like making things is such an important practice.
Right.
And giving yourself permission to have a voice, an artistic voice, is like a really radical and wonderful thing you can do. So it's like, find the people in your community who will believe in you and give you opportunities, make stuff, and then keep chasing, keep doing things like taking classes. There are all kinds of online sources. There are all kinds of grants and fellowships you can apply to. And people want you to succeed. I think sometimes we get stuck in this binary of like, you either do something or you don't. And in reality, there's so much abundance of opportunity if you just open your eyes to it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to speak to us today. Everyone that has seen your film has really enjoyed it, and we are so proud to have Ashley Melzer, a former Chipola student, come back and share her production experience with us.